You're listening to the Art of Resilience Show, a podcast that inspires those seeking to uncover their own resilience. I'm your host, Hussein Albiati, once a refugee, now artist, author, and entrepreneur. Join me in my mobile studio as we sit down with some of the most diverse, knowledgeable, and resilient guests to discuss their state of mind. Hey, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to the Art of Resilience. I'm your boy Hussein, and I'm here with the amazing Wade McJacobs. So Wade and I met a few years back at a sort of a networking thing that I was involved with called Best HQ. And Wade has always been extremely supportive, kind, and generous with his time, his wisdom, his ability to help me overcome things that I don't necessarily understand when it came to personal development, growth. And so I'm very excited because my man here has a book coming out real soon that I got super excited about because it's something that we all tend to struggle with or have fears around or don't know how to articulate, especially when we're young and now, and he'll reveal a little bit later, even when we're older. So here's the man, Wade McJacobs. Thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Hussein.
You've been an amazing friend to me and a mentor to me, and I'm excited to introduce you to our audience. And, you know, I think what your work revolves around is something very important because this is something I struggled with throughout my whole life, and it's reading. It's the most powerful thing we could do for ourselves.
Yes.
So real quickly, just tell us, you know, who you are, how you came here, what you've been doing, because I know you were in the teaching profession for quite some time.
Yes.
So tell us about how you sort of came to Portland, what got you here, and all these good things.
Well, I'm from the Midwest, and I came out here to go to college. I mean, it's a real simple kind of story, right? Yeah. I came out here, went to Reed College, and through that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So what was I? A religion major.
Ooh, okay.
Why was I a religion major? Basically because it had the fewest number of required credits.
That's amazing.
So it allowed me flexibility to take all kinds of classes.
Right.
And while I tried to figure out what my life was.
Sure.
And I knew at some point I knew that I wanted to work with kids.
Yeah.
And that helped, but it didn't narrow things down much.
Sure.
So I graduated with a religion major, and I thought, okay, how can I work with kids? And all I've got is a bachelor's degree, something unrelated. So I got working in residential treatment centers with kids who are victims of various kinds of abuse.
Sure.
And during that time frame, I was asking myself, how do I want to work with kids?
Yeah.
You know, could become a teacher, a social worker, a psychologist. There's a variety of options.
Sure.
I loved working in residential treatment because you're basically getting paid to play with kids.
Yeah.
It's like,
what
kind of a job is that, right?
Yeah.
It's great, but didn't pay all that well.
Sure.
Unfortunately. But at some point in that process, I decided to spend some time in a classroom. So I was an assistant in a classroom. And during that time frame, I realized that I had something to offer. And there's a lot of kids out there that need help of various kinds. And I've been focusing primarily on kids with emotional struggles, abuse victims.
Sure.
But I also realized there are other kinds of disabilities that kids struggle with. And that got me into a special ed program at the University of Portland.
Oh, wow.
And so I got through that program, and I taught special education for 31 years.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
I'm pretty kind of amazed, too. I mean, when you start teaching, you know, I had all these thoughts about, you know, I could teach anywhere in the world. I could do the whole Peace Corps thing or get schools.
Or just help here in your community.
Whatever. I mean, I had so many options, right?
Yeah.
And at some point in there, I met my wife, and we started talking about kids,
Yeah.
and then we couldn't have kids. We had went through miscarriages. That
Sure.
was a real struggle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we kind of gave up on it. And
Yeah.
then one summer, 3 different people completely independently brought us the exact same newspaper article about adopting children from China.
Wow.
It's like,
What a way to bring something to your
I
attention.
know. It's like, okay,
That's amazing.
there's a message here.
Yes.
So we sent away for the paperwork, and just to find out, right?
Yeah.
In the paperwork, there was an application.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, we didn't ask for an application, but
Yeah.
there it is. So we filled it out, and 9 months later, we had a little baby boy from China.
Wow.
And
Well, he's not a little boy
wow,
now, but
he's not
he's
a
an
little
amazing,
boy.
he's an
Yes.
amazing grown
Yes,
man.
he's actually
What an
in
awesome
Japan.
experience. Oh, right, yes.
He just got his master's degree in Japan. He's now applying for work. He's
Sure.
teaching English in the meantime, but
Man,
yeah,
how
he's-
incredible.
yeah.
And then I know you also have a beautiful young girl, too.
Yes, interestingly, my wife and I were older parents. We started late
Sure.
because of the miscarriages
Sure.
and all those other things. And when we got back from China, we looked at each other, and nobody gets a boy from China. I mean,
Sure.
it is very rare.
Interesting.
And but we did, and
Yeah.
so we looked at each other, and we had been expecting a girl for so long
Right.
that we thought, if we want a girl, we have to do this now,
Yeah.
because adoption takes time.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so we turned around immediately, sent in another application, and
Wow.
Martha went back to China and got our daughter. And she now is living on her own in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
has a great job, and
That's
doing
amazing.
really well. So-
Wow. What? So, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I have always been sort of fascinated and attracted to people who, have a generous heart, that are open, they extend their kindness in ways that you wouldn't even
Well,
think
you
otherwise.
reflect what you give, Hussein.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just felt this energy from you, even when I first met you, and then you invited me to your classroom, and I had the amazing opportunity to speak to your kids.
Yeah,
That
was
was
fun.
so fun, and that's my connection to the youth, because there was always, for me growing up here, there was always a little gap of who was leading the classroom, what they looked like,
Yeah.
and my lack of connection.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, and I was very good at building connections with my teachers. My father really drove it in to, I'll tell you a story real quick, and you'll appreciate this. My father showed up to my, like 7th grade, parent teacher conference.
Yeah.
But I had to go with him to translate, because my father, his English wasn't great by any means.
Yes, I can
Right?
just imagine. I can imagine. Okay. I've
So,
been there.
Yeah, and I come from a culture where teachers are rough, man. They are not. I mean, tough love is an understatement. They will literally beat you if you're not good. So my dad is sitting there. We're having a conversation, and he's like, "Is he good?" And she's like, like she's trying to go over the grades and how things were. He didn't care about any
and you're
of that.
translating this.
I'm trying, right?
Right,
Not
right,
be embarrassed and all
right.
that, right? And he goes, "Is he good?" And my teacher kind of looked over at him, and she goes, "Oh yeah, Hussein's, he's good. Doesn't disturb class or whatever." And he goes, "Okay." And he takes the ruler from her little cup holder or whatever thing, and goes, "If he's no good," and slaps the ruler, right? And she just literally laughed in tears. She's like, "Oh my God,
Right,
no,
right,
I
right.
wouldn't do that. I couldn't do." And he goes, "He must respect you." And he's like, "Translate this. When I'm not around, you're the parent. He must respect you." And that story always stuck with me, and I really tried to, no matter how tough or whatever it was, try to respect my elders, respect my teachers and mentors, and he told me, he's like, these people are waking up every morning, they're doing their best, they get here and they try to educate you on something that you don't know anything about, especially when it came around English or mathematics or everything, right? And so it gave me a different perspective, because honestly, let's be real, where I came from in the refugee camp, education didn't look like that.
No.
Right? It was extremely different. And so
I
from
appreciate
that
your words
perspective,
of support.
I always tell people, teachers, it's tough. It's tough to be a teacher, man. And you got to teach kids to respect our mentors, our teachers, because they're trying to pass something down. And now with ever expanding classrooms, ever expanding issues, social issues, mental health issues, which I'm sure you'll speak about, we have to, help them.
Yes.
With our kids, with our students. I don't have kids, but I know that because of how my father brought me up, and my mother too. So, talk to me briefly about, those moments in time as a teacher, as a professor, as a person that works with kids, specifically with mental health and abuse. What was that like for you? Because I know you went through your own struggles, and we'll talk about that next. But what was that like for you as a teacher, and helping those kids? What were the struggles that you were faced with?
Well, because I was in special ed, which was admittedly intentional on my part, I was always, my job was to find ways to reach the kids. So it was a little bit different than a regular classroom teacher who has a set curriculum that they're required to go through and present in different ways. But as a special ed teacher, the starting point is not the curriculum, it's the student. And I don't mean to say that other teachers don't do that in their head and in their hearts.
Right.
I think teachers are amazing people.
Yes.
But I didn't have the same kind of curriculum restrictions or parameters that I had to work with. The goal was to find out what's going on with the kids.
Yes.
Well, that takes on a huge meaning because a kid brings so many different things to the equation. And particularly kids who come from abusive backgrounds. You don't know what they're coming from.
Right.
And I have always been a teacher who realized that there is nothing I could give to them if they're not in a position to receive it. And so the work has to be done on preparing them to receive it. It's kind of like, I don't know, there's so many different analogies you could use, but the garden analogy is the one that is coming up today.
Tell me the garden analogy.
The garden analogy is you have to prepare the ground. That there's a seed inside the student, and the seed could grow into whatever it chooses to grow into. But if it doesn't have proper nutrient in its own being, then it's going to stifle its growth. It's going to be hard growth, not necessarily a dead growth, but it's just going to be hard. So I always saw, as a special ed teacher, I kind of saw the regular ed teachers as water and nutrients that they were putting on to help the student grow. But my job was to enrich the soil. And what that means varies depending on the kid, but it basically means a lot of being really alert to what's going on. And that level of alertness is hard some days. Because I had my own things.
Raising children, having a life,
and
wife, and
right. Exactly. I have my own life to lead, and I had my own history that I had to get past. Right. So as soon as you put yourself in a position where you are trying to be sensitive to someone else, it alerts you to the areas in which you need to be sensitive to yourself.
Incredible.
And that's hard work.
That is.
Because you can get distracted in either direction. So you can get distracted with your own issues and kind of neglect some of the needs of the students that you're working with. Or you can get distracted with the kids' issues and not give proper attention to what you need to make sure that you're in a strong place. So it's really easy to get distracted either direction.
That's really powerful, Wade.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's
no, really, it is. It's really powerful to put the teacher perspective into the scope of things right now, because I feel like, especially what we've gone through in the last year, and what our perception is of a professor, a teacher, an educator, a mentor, if you will, to our children.
There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the education world that is very encouraging to me. there's a thing called social emotional learning, or SEL.
Okay.
And as a SPED teacher who focused on emotional issues, so my specialty was working with emotionally disturbed students. In the state of Oregon, that's what they're called, emotionally disturbed. Or at least they were. I don't know what the current language is. Because I'm retired. But
yeah, and it changes every other
and
week,
it changes,
right?
But as a special ed teacher, I've been sensitive to emotional issues all along.
Yeah.
But now nowadays, probably for the last 10, 15 years, but in the last 5 years, it's been intensified. There's this thing called social emotional learning. And interestingly enough, the pandemic has actually brought it forward.
Wow.
Because you have to be alert to it. As a teacher, you have to be aware of the social emotional issues that students are going through, because they're right there on the screen and they don't bring them into the classroom.
Right.
So it's real easy for the student to just turn around and not deal with something, right? So there's actual curriculum now around social emotional learning.
That's amazing.
And there's actual, how should I say, time set aside in a teaching day to address most social emotional issues.
That's remarkable.
At all levels.
Yeah.
And that used to not be there. It used to be.
Now, is that in all schools, or is that in like specific schools, or like where
it's
is
a national
that?
thing.
It's a national thing. So that's like rolling out
it's
to
like
be
a fad.
Okay.
And you know, so it's a good fad.
It's a good fad. It's a trend that we want to
it's
set.
a trend we want to right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where it's going
Sure.
to go.
It's
but
young, it's still growing.
Yes. And
Right.
along with that, there's also a lot of research being done on mindfulness practice and the effect of mindfulness practice on all the other things we do in life, including school, including
100%. It's part of
being
our
educated.
life.
Right.
It's like, so I love the mindfulness has made its way into work, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And like in the last
Yes.
whatever. And of course it has to make its way into education.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
they go together.
Yes.
And also life, right? It's like a circular pattern.
Exactly.
And I know, shout out to Martha out there. I know your wife has her hands full with that work as well. And
she's doing some amazing things.
Yeah, man, I love that.
Can I take a minute to talk a
Yeah,
little
please
about
do.
Oh, what she is doing,
Yes.
what she is so remarkable about is bringing mindfulness work down to earth.
Yes.
A lot of people, when they think about mindfulness, they go into the netherworld.
Meditation.
Right.
Like, I mean, really,
Right.
like the
Right.
surface.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And it's up there in the ethereal
Yes.
world that we can't really touch, but we're all supposed to reach it and that kind of stuff, right? Martha just doesn't work that way.
No.
Martha is like, she's at home. I mean, she is on earth.
Yes.
And
I know
so
this.
Yeah. I think to the benefit of those she teaches, she has a way of teaching you to touch yourself inside,
Yes.
but not judge yourself.
Yes.
And there's a gentleness to it, and her emphasis is to befriend yourself.
I love that.
And it's really powerful stuff. And she's been finishing up or doing some classes with people with Parkinson's. She's got something going on with youth in the Beaverton area. Yeah. And with senior citizens as well. I mean, so she's got kind of this gamut.
Yeah.
That is,
and that's how mindfulness is.
It's everywhere.
It's
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's how I've heard it before. It's that you're a fish and mindfulness is the water. It's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
just, how
That's
do
good.
you raise your awareness to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's around you and you can access it. And I love that.
And
I love the
don't judge
idea.
it.
Yeah. Don't
It
judge
just
it. It just is. Exactly. You can't.
Yeah.
So
famous,
I love that.
A quote that I have up on my board that Martha said is, there is no place to go. How's it go? There is no place to go. There's just opportunity to be.
It's powerful, man.
It might be misquoting a little bit.
I
but
love
that's
that. That's the sense of it.
Yeah,
and I think so.
Quote.
With your work, I love education in a way that, I've always been asking myself, like, how do I use my art to help define for others, things.
Oh, yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it is. How do I use my graphic skills? How do I
Well, you're
make these fun
reaching people
t-shirts?
through that mechanism.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's my art, you
Yeah.
know? And if anybody would ask me anything about refugees and like, who are these for? What is this for? And I tell them, it's to shed light for refugees, but it's actually designed for teachers.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like the posters, I designed them deliberately to be hung in classrooms.
Yes.
The t-shirts are designed for teachers to wear in front of students, right? Because if I want a message to get to a student, then I have to make the teacher the messenger, right? And that's how I've sought out how I do this work.
Oh, interesting.
And,
okay.
Not a whole lot of people understand, and it's like, everyone can wear this shirt, of course, but the predominantly people who wear these graphic tees and all these fun things that we create have been teachers. So I have a soft spot for teachers and mentors.
Thank you.
Because, it's how we know the world. It's how we get to know ourselves, our communities, our culture. And they have a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work.
And
it's hard work.
It's hard work. and going back to what your dad said,
yes.
Your teachers are really your second parents.
100%. And I think we can't allow, the idea of like, oh, they're like the babysitters or they're the parents or like that's not okay. It's an opportunity to help your student understand that there is a mentor that is really engaged in helping them with things that I can't help you with. Like my father didn't understand algebra.
No, I get
right,
it.
right. Like
Yeah.
you gotta have respect for that and that person that's teaching that to your child. So I love that, and I appreciate your line of work so much. And shout out to all the teachers and amazing people that have come across my world. So thank you all, seriously. Because I know a lot of you are listening, so thank you. So tell me about that
My
one
story.
struggle. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The struggle.
Well, it's an interesting story because, if I may give a little preamble, reading is a skill that, on the one hand, from an scientific evolutionary standpoint, is unnecessary. As a biological creature, we don't need to read. It's a social thing. It's not a biologically physical thing. And yet, by the time you're approximately 8 years old, third grade, or extend maybe to fifth grade for some people, you're kind of expected to be able to read.
100%. It's right when I walked into it.
Exactly. And if you don't read proficiently at that age, you are put in a category of people who need help or remedial reading or whatever words are used, because there's a variety of words. But the expectation is that you get it.
Yes.
What happens at that point in time, and I'll get around to my story because it's relevant here.
Yeah, no, but I love this preamp. For sure.
What happens at that point in time is that a student begins to identify with themselves as being either a good reader or a bad reader, or they don't think about it.
Wow.
The don't think about it are those who are good readers, by the way. Because if you're not a good reader, you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're aware of it, and it's pointed out to you a lot, not always intentionally, but you notice it.
Yes.
Well, now my story.
Yes.
I came from a family that were educators. My dad was a college professor. My mom was a nurse. I mean, they knew the value of teaching and learning and reading, so I was read to. I had books, right? When I was about 4 years old, I figured out reading. I was sitting underneath a birch tree. This memory is so vivid. Sitting underneath a birch tree, the same tree that I learned how to tie my shoes, by the way. And I had books in front of me, and I figured out the word thing. I figured out the connection to the words, to the pictures, and the meaning, and something happened for me. And I was like, oh, I got it. I get it. I was 4 years old, right?
Wow.
So I go into school. I start school already being able to read.
Incredible.
By third grade, I was in the slow reading group in the back of the room.
Interesting.
So what happened there?
Yeah.
And I don't really know exactly, because I don't know the history of reading at that particular time frame and everything. Sure. But from what I've learned since then, as a teacher of reading, I think what happened is that my teachers focused on reading words. Because when I was in school in the early 60s, phonics programs were a big deal. Okay. And proper pronunciation, making sure that the word was linked to a picture or something like that. Everything was focused on getting the words right. I was really good at getting the words right, but no one taught me to focus on what my ideas were while I was reading. And so by third grade, I was really good at reading the words, but in order to get the meaning out of them, I had to make adjustments in my thinking, and it didn't work well.
Understood.
So I grew up a slow reader.
Sure.
But more significantly than that, I grew up thinking that was as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could improve my reading. I just thought, okay, you're going to be slow. So I go to Reed College. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty heavy-duty school.
Sure.
I was a good student, so because I studied hard, but I studied long hours because I was a slow reader. So I had to put in extra time when everyone else was doing what they were doing. Right. So I go to Reed College, and they tell me on my first day of school that I'm supposed to have the Iliad read in poetry form before school starts.
Wow.
Right, the Iliad by Homer, right?
Yeah.
And in the first week of school, in 1 week, I had to read the Odyssey in poetry form.
Jesus.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this is Reed College, right? Here I am.
You're reading.
Yeah, I'm reading, and it's hard reading, and it's taking me forever. And all my friends who I'm in class with are getting through things, fairly efficiently, and I'm staying up late till midnight, 1 o'clock, struggling to get through it. So that's my experience with reading. But I just thought that's what it was.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So now can I transition? I'd like to transition to what happened to
what
me
happened
as a
next.
teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. About 15, what is this? This is 2021, so maybe a little bit more than 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was working with a student on her reading skills, and she was reading only really comfortable with third and fourth grade materials, and she was reading pretty slow, about 90 words a minute. Okay. Which, by the way, she was 16 years old, so 90 words per minute is slow.
Yeah. Okay.
Just so you know. So she's reading a passage, and she reads the word little, only she reads it small. There's no S or M or A in the word little, right? But she read the word small. Now, I was taught as a teacher to put a little check mark over that, and that's a mistake. But something inside me said, no. Something inside me said she didn't get it wrong.
I love that.
She got the idea. So it asked, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, she got the concept. Now, interestingly, she didn't know she made that mistake.
Of course.
She got it, so she just went on. She, what I call, read through it.
Yeah.
So my reading strategy is called the read through it strategy.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. So what I realized is that we create pictures or images or reactions to the words we read. And those pictures become sources of information to help us understand. So not only when you're reading, not only do you read words, you're also reading a picture that you yourself have created.
Yes.
So my reading strategy that I teach in the Dare to Read book is to help you become alert to those pictures.
I love that.
Not just the words.
Right.
And sometimes the words don't come out easily.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't know what they are, or you don't know how to pronounce them, or you're kind of vaguely familiar with them. But by the end of the passage, you might have a good enough picture. You don't need to know what that word was.
Right.
And so I changed my focus of my reading, and my reading instruction. And I started trying to elicit from the student, what is it your brain is thinking? How is your brain reacting? What images are you creating?
That's so powerful, man. Wade, thank you, man. When I have guests here, I tend to, try to pull like the ideas of resilience, the mindset in which that they carry throughout life, throughout their work, career, relationships. Because there's a reservoir of resilience, right, that we all tap into, and that reservoir has words like patience, discipline, optimism, all these wonderful things, supportive structures. I always bring that up. But to everyone, resilience means something different, and that's what I've been discovering, if you will, throughout these episodes. And what I realized too is resilience has developed in each person a sort of state of mind in which they follow, if you will, or seek, or even pursue, right? Mm-hmm. And a state of mind in which they are content with, or whatever it is, it's usually wrapped around a word in which that they gravitate towards. And so for me, when I was writing my book, the thread, which shout out to Wade, because my man literally proofread my book, went through, read it, because I passed it to him to say, hey, as an educator, you're like my target audience of who I want to share. Because remember, I told you, you're the messengers of who I want the book to get to. So, Wade took the time to go through my book, point out what was not working, point out what was working, and I am forever indebted to you for that. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, because it was not, that first draft was horrendous, if you will. It had tons of, there was times where I spoke a lot from my wounds, and through writing, like you said, I was able to heal a lot of those wounds. So my second, third, and fourth drafts were so much, they were just improved versions, and I had to alleviate a lot of what didn't make sense anymore, wasn't necessary anymore to the story. So for that, I'm grateful, right? Because I was able to edit and further refine my ideas in my book. But you were a pivotal person in that and helped shaping that. So
delighted to do it.
Yeah,
and
man.
I would say your first draft wasn't horrendous. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much, Wade. I appreciate that. But with that, it helped me cultivate an idea around resilience, how I should approach it. And it further encapsulated, I used to be fearful of even sharing that I was a refugee. I was embarrassed, right? Or I was on welfare. I was impoverished.
Sharing that you're a slow reader.
Exactly. I wasn't great at math, but I can draw the hell out of something. I wanted to just lean into my strengths, but I knew I had to improve my weaknesses. And so growing up now, I utilize my refugee story, my, all these things to empower and inspire others. And so I called it, Art of Resilience, the refugee state of mind, because I just wanted to own it, embrace it, and just be like, I am that, and I'm okay with that. And I'm not that label. I'm the human being that came from that. And so, and also to shed light on my refugee community, people, friends, brothers, sisters out there that are still going through it. And so, I realized that a state of mind can come from all kinds of different things, right? But for you, if you could use one word from all your reading, right? If you could use one word to define your state of mind, what would that be?
I want to go to powerful.
I love that, man.
And I think the reason I use that is because that's what I am discovering. And that's what I encourage my students to discover. I tell my students in every lesson, your brain is your most powerful tool. And for some of my students, I have to say it repeatedly in every there have been times where I've said it 3 or 4 times in a 5-minute lesson.
Wow.
But your brain is the most powerful tool. And
dude,
unleash it.
I love that so much, Wade. Thank you for sharing that. Powerful state of mind. It is hands down, the 6 inches between your ear are the most valuable real estate, is the most valuable real estate in the world. I mean, without that, you don't know the world, right? So, for anyone out there, parents, any whoever you are, please help others understand the value of your mind and their minds. And reading is an incredible tool to, obviously, you see both of us here are authors, and I'm truly grateful to even say that. But it is so powerful in so many ways. So encourage one another to read about one another, to read about culture, to read about others, and really empower yourself to become a better person.
Amen.
So you have some things coming up. You have an event with
the
library, which
at
is
Beaverton Library.
Yeah, tell me more.
The people at the library often get people coming in asking, do you have anything to help with my reading? And they don't, the library itself doesn't really have, they have books they could give them.
Sure.
Improve your reading skills, that kind of stuff.
But there's no technique.
But there's no,
and a professor that could do that.
Exactly. And they refer them to community college, where they
Sure.
go through remedial reading classes,
Sure.
which are okay. I don't want to criticize them. That's not what I'm at.
Sure.
But I said, well, why don't I put a class together for Beaverton City Library?
Yeah.
And so we're trying it out.
I love that.
The class is, it's in May, middle of May.
Yeah.
And it's not a full class yet. It's
Sure.
just an introductory lecture
Sure.
to explain what the program is.
I love that.
At that time, then we will discuss the possibility of, if enough people sign up for it, then I'll do a class, and we'll see where that goes. My long-term plan is to be able to offer this kind of a class to not only community colleges, but possibly in prisons, possibly with immigrant communities.
Yeah. Here it is, Dare to Read. Where can they find this book? Where can they find you to hire you, maybe for seminars, courses in the coming year?
I have a business called Student Empowerment Group. So studentempowermentgroup.com.
Perfect.
Will have access to information about the book.
Cool.
And how to get a hold of me. And but it's basically studentempowerment.com or studentempowermentgroup@gmail.com.
Yeah, man. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, Wade. Shout out to Martha and your wonderful kids. I know they'll be listening to this. Thank you all, teachers, mentors, professors that have come into my life and helped me. I'm your boy Hussein. I'm your host, Art of Resilience. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care and good luck. Peace. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of The Art of Resilience. If this episode helped you in any way, please drop a comment, subscribe, or share this episode to help a friend. Thanks to our sponsors, Portland Gear and Portland State University School of Business. If you'd like more, check out refutees.com for more episodes, our newest Refutees campaign, events, resources, and my upcoming book, Art of Resilience. Here's a freebie. Use code FREESHIPPING right now and help us grow the awareness and the brand. Till next time, keep growing your state of mind.